Hi, this is Fro. Finally started working on the lighting on the Falcon. I ended up using incandescent bulbs for the front lights since they look the best, but went with LEDs for the rest of the model. I did make sure I got long life bulbs so I don't have to worry about them burning out anytime soon. I ended up using some epoxy sculpt putty to hold the lights in place, and I did have to modify the left one, which will show up here later in the video. Um, I've been looking over some pictures on the Falcon and ended up marking where the landing lights were going. I drilled holes for both smaller red and larger white landing lights. I used cockpit glue or white glue to hold down the fiber because I've heard the CA glue can cause crazing and make them brittle. For the computer consoles, I ended up using 3 different LEDs to give a little variety on the lighting. Guessing there's a total of between 50 and 60 fibers of various sizes, 1/4 and 1/2 millimeter diameter. Total, there's probably about 12 or 13 LEDs, not counting the strip of LEDs I used for the engines. I did take a little extra time to black out the interior and also to make sure I didn't have any light leaks. Probably went a little overboard. Here's the modification that I made to the interior to get the incandescent light to fit. I did steal some parts off of a model battleship that I had to cover up the epoxy, plus it made it look a little more interesting. Here's the gun and turret assembly. I decided not to add the seat that came with the model, just didn't like the way it looked, and ended up just covering over and blacking it out to cut out any light leaks from getting in the model. This is the beginning of the ramp assembly. There's really not much to it, just added a little extra support. Just a box that goes over top of the opening with the ramp at the bottom. Here's the connecting tunnel that goes from the main interior to the ramp, and also the lighting that I was adding. It went together fairly easily, but I did have to cut an extra piece of styrene and glue it to the ramp assembly. This gave me a place to add the LED, plus I did seal up some light leaks around the hallway itself. Here's the start of the engines. It took a while for me to figure out how I wanted to approach them. I tried several different mock-ups using individual LEDs, a strip of LEDs, and some cyclo fiber optic cables, but nothing really looked right. I ended up deciding to build a box to hold the lights in, and I actually tried a couple different strips of LEDs. White one with a blue camera gel on top looked okay, but just a straight blue LEDs with a thin plastic styrene on top of them looked a lot better. I did end up making a couple of big mistakes when building the engine lighting. First mistake was even though I measured it, the engines were too tall for the model. I ended up having to cut the top off, shave off about 1/8 of an inch and glue everything back together. It was not a fun afternoon doing that. The other mistake I made was when I ended up trimming off some of the LEDs and adding a resistor back in place to get them to work again. I ended up making a wrong calculation and adding the wrong resistors to the LED strip. You'll see here in a later image where I went from 3 resistors down to 1. That way didn't put too much current across them. I think the engine overall came out well. Anyway, I hope you liked it, and I'll be sending out the next video with the cockpit here in the next week or so. Thanks.